So browsing WeChat, you'll see Chinese people are quite patriotic after this 1,000-bed hospital was built in about 10 days. They're saying only China could come together in this kind of battle. I mean, you built the mountain battle over Anshisong, and Little Korea still kicked your ass there. You know why a 1,000-bed hospital is basically just a publicity stunt? Besides already knowing that the reported numbers are bullshit, both The Lancet, which is a UK medical journal, and Johns Hopkins both published their own models predicting what the real infection numbers are. The Lancet estimates that as of January 25, there were 75,000 cases in China with a doubling time of 6.4 days, meaning today it'd be around 300,000. Johns Hopkins estimated around 58,000 cases by January 31st. But congratulations on your 1,000-bed hospital. I hope the government doesn't just lock you all inside like all the other neighbors are doing. The builders are even saying once you get in, the doors won't open and the windows are welded shut. If they wanted anything other than a prison for the infected, they would have just used a warehouse or a school. But go China! It's not just the infected numbers that appear to be bullshit. First, there are still videos leaking of people literally fainting, so either there is such a high fever that causes a minor seizure, or there is some kind of neurological component that no one's really aware of yet. Second, the death counts are pretty much nonsense. We have got 1 death in Hong Kong, yet only 17 infections. Looking at China, we have 479 deaths in Hubei officially, with around 17,000 official infections. Zhejiang and Guangdong both have about 900 official infections, but 0 deaths. Like I mentioned before, many doctors are writing off deaths as pneumonia instead. Many doctors aren't even testing people, and there are reports that crematoriums are running 24/7.
但是1月29号这次的蹲守，1个半小时看到4辆殡葬车的进出，4进4出。当时的殡仪馆是24小时进行轮番工作的，如果1个半小时进去4辆殡葬车的话，一天24小时。
Scientists around the world are currently studying the virus and releasing a lot of mostly technical information, such as structural comparisons and such. It turns out that HIV medication was also being used during the SARS outbreak because these are all RNA viruses, so it's slightly less surprising that China is using HIV medication again. But one pretty interesting finding is that the coronavirus is particularly effective at binding with an enzyme called ACE2, which exists in large numbers in the linings of the lungs. This would explain why the infected patients being studied right now have lower respiratory issues other than sinus issues, say. This is mostly bad news for East Asians, though, because you guys have a higher frequency of this enzyme. It is showing signs of spread via diarrhea as well, so I hope that besides wearing gloves everywhere, you're not using public bathrooms. I wasn't initially going to discuss this, but given this kind of hunch of a calm before the storm, it's important to know the R0 value. An R value of a virus is essentially a predictor of the infection rate. The annual flu has an R value of 1.28, meaning each infected person will spread the flu to, on average, 1.28 other people. Now, according to the Chinese scientists, the R value for the coronavirus is 4.08, meaning that on average, each infected person will spread it to 4 other people. There are other studies which prescribe a value around 3 or so, but I would have assumed China to underreport this number, while the fucking traitors at the WHO reported an R value of 1.4. By the way, Germans found out that the virus still tests positive post-symptom as well. So, why is this important now? Well, the new cases in Thailand include a couple who visited Japan, not China. The US and Singapore both have a local transmission. No confirmed cases in South America, Central America, or Africa yet, which could simply be due to their inability to detect it. The US also doesn't have the testing procedure ready outside of the CDC, so 99% of hospitals or so are going to be in the dark. It doesn't really help that the CDC didn't quarantine 195 Americans who flew in from Wuhan either. We have around 480 travelers from the Wuhan in the UK that the government can't even find. So I'll be pretty surprised if this doesn't blow up. It's quite amazing how, despite all this international connectivity, massive leaps in technological development, we're just wholly unprepared for this worldwide. China even requested help from the EU to give medical supplies. They ran out of test kits on the 25th. I've heard people are hanging their IVs from ceiling tiles in the hospital waiting rooms. I've heard reports some people are just waiting outside in the cold, hanging their IVs on trees. I'll leave you with this graffiti of Dictator Winnie the Pooh in a hazmat suit saying, "You should relax because everything's under control." Meanwhile, swarms of carrion birds are arriving, following their instincts. If this was a bioweapon, someone should tell these people that it should be used on other people.